My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And welcome back. This is The Experts. I'm Jonathan Gilliam, and the truth, as always, has arrived. And quickly, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the debate. I drove over 600 miles today, and I'm somewhere, I'm not going to tell you where I'm at, somewhere. But I'm at the loudest place I've ever been. I literally had to move. So I always choose certain places, based on my analysis of the location of where I'm going to stay in my RV. This particular place was the loudest place I've ever been, truck stop I've ever been to. And right as I start to do the podcast, a garbage truck pulls right up next to my RV, and the guy goes in and decides to have a powwow inside the location. And so I had to move, and it actually worked out. So it's better where I'm at now, but you can still hear traffic behind me. I heard a jet plane go over because I'm close to an airport, and there's every 15, 20 minutes, there's a train goes by. So you might hear that before this show is over with. It is literally tremendously loud here, and I haven't even been to sleep yet. So you're going to hear this probably if you listen first thing in the morning as I go to sleep, because I've been driving all night. I'm trying to make it somewhere, and I got a limited amount of time to get there. But I want to start with today, no joking matter, probably one of the dumbest. I don't want to say dumb. It was, I don't understand this at all. I don't understand this headline, and you're going to say the same thing when I read it to you. It has nothing to do with the presidential debate. That's all predictably stupid, or the vice presidential debate, equally predictably stupid. But I'm reading a headline here on foxnews.com that says a toddler dies in a hot car after the dad refused to let cops break the window. And I had to read the story because I was thinking that they missed something here, that there's no way cops could roll up and see a child in a car and, first of all, not ask the question, how long has that child been in there? I don't know if they even asked that question, but it's in Vegas is where this happened. In Las Vegas, where, I just left Arizona, which is about the same, tremendously hot. It was still 105 degrees in Arizona when I left. I don't know what it's like in Vegas, but it's got to be close to that. You're in the desert. It's got to be really hot right now. This guy left his kid in the car for an hour. And then when the police rolled up, it says Las Vegas dad was arrested after he refused to break the window of his new car to save his dying toddler, authorities said. So is this the same authorities that rolled up and didn't break the window? Sidney Deal, 27, flagged down officers after he left his 1-year-old daughter, I'm not going to say her name, God rest her soul, in a hot car Monday afternoon with the keys inside. The officers offered to break the window, call a tow truck, or get a locksmith. But Deal declined and asked to call his brother, police said. Now, I'm not sure if they asked him how long the kid had been in there before they got there. I don't know. I'm assuming that they did. It said after several minutes, officers smashed the window and pulled out the unresponsive girl who died at the scene. You're in a desert, and you roll up, and you tap on the window. She's not responding. The first question out of my mouth would be, how long has she been in there? And I would keep tapping on that window. If she doesn't answer, there would be no offer to get a tow truck or a locksmith out there. That window's getting broke, and that child's coming out. I don't know what I'm more disturbed by in this story. The weirdo dad who left his child in a desert in a car for an hour, or the police officers that rolled up. Now, there may be more to this story, but if it's being told like it is, what is happening in law enforcement? This story makes no sense to me. I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but if they're reporting this right, it says after several minutes, the officer smashed the window. The very first thing when you roll up, you're in a desert. When you roll up and there's a child in the window, I would knock on that window. If there's no response, that window's coming down. That kid's coming out immediately. It says the cause of death is pending, but authorities believe she had been trapped in the car for more than an hour. Wow. I don't know. These stories get more and more bizarre every day. This world's just becoming more and more bizarre every day. Take, for instance, and God rest that little angel soul. It aggravates me to death. It aggravates me to death. Yes, I'm coming down hard on law enforcement in this story. If it's reported the way it is, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I don't understand parents forgetting that their children are in the car. If you're this is why having a baby is your right, but why aren't they teaching this stuff in school? I mean, it's like a free license to be just like, I mean, this isn't we wouldn't even treat a dog this way. You know me, I'm a huge dog person. My dogs were treated like they were my children. I don't get it. This is a bizarre world that we live in now. Bizarre. But as far as this, let's transition here. I don't know what else to say about that. The vice presidential campaign debate tonight was no surprise. You got Miss High Woman. She's like she's high every time. Hey, she just reminds me of somebody who's stoned out of her gourd every time she opens her mouth. And then you got Puppet Pence over there. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm no Mike Pence fan. I don't know him, but I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan. There's been too many coincidences with people that work for him that have done stuff against Trump. I've already told the story a couple times. One of the people that was working with Peter Strzok and Lisa Page to find sources in the White House to flip on Trump was Mike Pence's first chief of staff. It was his wife, who was an analyst for the FBI, Catherine Seaman. He resigned later on. And then Pence's head attorney was one of the people that was testifying against Trump while they had all those, Vindman and all those other weirdos up there. I don't trust Mike Pence. I don't know what this choice is, but I don't like him. And I've heard from people who worked in the NSA not to be trusted. Sorry. I call it like I see it, folks. I could be wrong. I always admit when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong. But I felt this way before I found out any of this other stuff about people that work for him. And I have to tell you, my biggest criticism for the president, there's been a couple, but my biggest one has been his choice of people that he's chosen to work close with that are from the Washington, D.C. swamp. And I believe Mike Pence is one of those people. And so watching this debate for me was horrendous. And I even tweeted out, don't waste your time on it. Wait for the headlines or the highlights the next day. I watched it, listened to it as I was driving down the road. And it was up there. I could see it. It was on YouTube as I drove down the road. And it was no surprise to me. But I tell you what's weird about these presidential debates or vice presidential debates or whatever. What is with the flies? There was a fly on Mike Pence for 2 minutes in his hair. It wasn't the first time. Happened to Obama. Happened to Hillary Clinton. What is with all the flies? Where are they coming from? And also, Mike Pence, okay, he had a bloody eye. Joe Biden's had a bloody eye before. I mean, but you go to Twitter, you go to Drudge Report. That's all they talk about. They're even in the Drudge Report. They're saying that that Kamala Harris won the debate by 59. This is what CNN, they're saying this on Drudge. They have a CNN. I go to Drudge. I tell you this every day. I go there so I can see the reality of what the left is spewing, because all the headlines on there are leftist. And they're saying, CNN is reporting that according to their polls, Kamala Harris won by 59%. They're saying. I don't know what debate they were watching, but regardless of what I feel about Mike Pence, and regardless of how long-winded that guy is, he crushed her. She is, at best, annoying, and at worst, narcissistically smug and repulsively annoying. So watching this, you didn't get anything out of it. And I really was not happy with Vice President Pence's response about the abortion question. I don't understand. He completely skipped over it so he could make a point on the previous question, which, she totally screwed up anyway. I wouldn't have spent as much time on it as he did. And he made it known that he's pro-life, not pro-choice, that he's unapologetically anti-abortion. Okay, that's great. But why isn't, listen, after watching the Republican convention, which was, you can tell, heavily influenced by Donald Trump, as opposed to the years before when it was heavily influenced by the Republican Party. And what I mean by that, it was you could just see the political correctness before. This time, the main subject, two subjects in the Republican convention was God. Well, three things: God, country, and life, and saving, embryos' lives, children's lives, their souls. It was amazing. But I don't understand why in these debates, the president and vice president don't just go all out about abortion and how many lives have been killed as a result of the Supreme Court and their inability to protect life. Why is that not mentioned over and over in the veracity of it coming out? Listen, I think the writing's on the wall. If you look at Amy Coney Barrett's, I don't know why she goes by three names, but when you look at her decisions that she's made in the past and what those close to her say, she's not going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Might as well get that out of your head. If she does, prove me wrong, please, on that. But that has no bearing to me on why the president and the vice president in these debates aren't just railing on this. Somebody needs to point out the fact that they've killed over 63 million souls because of the Supreme Court. And it's very important that we get somebody in there who is going to stick it to the Roe versus Wade decision. But we didn't get that. We're not going to get that. And the way you listen to the president and the vice president, the way they debate, it's not like it's not reflecting the Republican convention. And I think it's important. Listen, I'm a huge Trump supporter, but these are things that need to be pointed out. I don't care who it is up there. Everybody's going to make some mistakes. Nobody's going to get exactly what I want up there to be absolutely right. Who say I'm absolutely right? But I have to say that this is probably one of the most important things, and I think tonight that was my biggest complaint, was that when Pence was asked a question about abortion, he didn't just lay it down. Do they not see, for one, how important it is, but two, how important it is to the people that are going to vote for them? Do they think by sidestepping that a little bit, they're going to get other votes? No, they're not. So that was a big criticism I had. Also, again, these debates, how do they pick the people who moderate these debates? They don't actually ask any questions that I would ask if I was, for instance, if it was in my field house, right? We're talking about leadership. We're talking about law enforcement, national security, special forces, right? And maybe media. Those are the things that I know. if I was in the position of moderating, I would crush it on that part, and I would hold them to the fire, kind of like Pence was holding Kamala Harris when she wouldn't admit that they're going to stack the courts. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they're going to stack the courts with more Supreme Court justices. It's the first time it's been done that way, or they're trying to do it in over 200 years. And they're trying to add more justices to the Supreme Court as though we need that just so they can change the flow back to a liberal bias. It just goes to show you, and nobody's brought this up either, it just goes to show you that judges are political, and we need to get away from that. You're going to hear that train coming by now. We need to get, is there any justices out there that are not political? I don't think so. I really don't. If they were, they'd be hammers. I'm telling you that right now. They would be amazing. And that's the way the Supreme Court should be. Totally impartial. Sticking only to the Constitution. If they did that, the country would not be in the shape that it's in now. The Constitution should be the litmus test. And I think it should be added into the way we pick and sustain judges. If they have shown a bias to the left or to the right, get them out. If they get in and they show a bias to the left and the right, then they should be kicked out. If they stick to the Constitution in an unbiased fashion, then they should be able to stay there. But this appointment for life, and you're appointing political people, and then the court sways left or right, I do not, that is not the way the court system was intended to be. So I have a real problem with this, and it reflects directly, I think, onto the debate stage tonight when, when they're talking about how they're going to stack the courts. Kamala Harris will not answer that. I do think Mike Pence did a good job of hammering on this. But when it comes to the moderator, nothing. They're not moderating anything. It's strictly leftist. The next debate for the president is going to be some wacko that nobody has ever heard of, who's a total leftist, who has tweeted out against the president on numerous occasions and has no real expertise in anything. Journalism is not an expertise. Sorry, folks, if you're a journalist, it's not an expertise. I've been in media long enough to know now that anybody with a camera and a microphone can do journalism. It really is. Can you just repeat the facts of what you see? Well, that's not even real journalism now. It's can you take any story and twist it into a liberal fashion? That's really what journalism now is now. I saw another story where they're talking about how the White House press corps is in fear for their life over COVID. Good. They should not even be in the White House. There should not be any media in any of these agencies. Let them stand outside like the rest of us. Let them stand outside of the White House gate and scream for questions like anybody else. There should be no special treatment given to news media outlets. That is not what the Founding Fathers intended when they said freedom of the press. They're talking about your ability, to say what you want to say and disseminate that information. That's what the freedom of the press stands for, is the dissemination of information. Not freedom of the media to skew things. That's a modern day construct, and that's what, just like when it comes to freedom of religion, and how they skewed that, or freedom or to bear arms, they've skewed that. The Second Amendment has been bastardized so bad by these state governments, it's a joke in most places. So when I look at what occurred tonight, I'm not looking at this debate from a normal, this is just normal politics. You got the Democrats and the Republicans, and they're up there debating for vice president. This is not the world we live in. And I'm sick and tired of seeing, like I've said over and over and over, the Republican Party acting like this is politics as usual. The Democrats are not acting like that. The Democrats are out for blood. They're out for the Constitution. They're out to destroy your freedom and usher in communism. And they're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding their lies. And they get up there, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they lie like crazy when they're up there, saying stuff about the president that's absolutely not true, saying stuff about what they've said before themselves, which is not true. They both said that they want to get rid of fracking. Then they're up there, she's up there tonight saying, no, that's not true. It is true. But the Democrat Party has an agenda, and they are carrying through on that agenda. They will lie, cheat, and steal, and do whatever they can to win this election. Meanwhile, you have Republicans that are up there lollygagging like, oh, it's just another political debate. And I want to, Mike Pence, Mr. Puppet Robot, he wants to tell, I told Kamala, I gave her a phone call and said, congratulations for the nomination. What? Why on earth would you reach out to a communist leftist and say, hey, congratulations? That's like calling, Stalin's second in charge and say, hey, listen, congratulations. I hope we have a great election. And I hope if you win, God bless you. That's what that's like. Hey, I know you're Hitler's second in command. I'm second in command to the president. Congratulations on the nomination. I'm so sick of the Republican Party and the people in the Republican Party acting like this is politics as normal as any other election year. It's not. And all these people, listen, I see all these. One thing the polls are getting right is that they're saying that the majority of Americans believe we're on the edge of a civil war. You bet your ass we're on the edge of a civil war. I know. I've been driving all over the country. I can tell you right now what people feel. I don't have to have any pollster tell me. I've been out talking to people everywhere I go. Everybody feels this way. Very few people don't feel like something could happen. And I have seen the reality as I drive around, as I meet people, as I speak. There is a tension in the air that is palatable in most places. Where it's least palatable, unfortunately, is where the Republican Party is strong. That's where it's least palatable. And men. This is one thing I haven't really talked about. Everywhere I go in all these meetings, whether it be support for Trump victory, Republican groups, it's all women. Where are the men? Why aren't you out there breaking bread and talking about this stuff? Taking charge. Where are you? And when I hear the analysis of this, it just drives me crazy. People want to talk about how great they think Pence did tonight. He didn't do well. And I'll tell you why. I mean, he beat Kamala Harris because I think the stupidest thing she said all night was when she was talking about General Soleimani, who was the Iranian general that was killed. And she literally says, well, when he was killed, there was counterattacks and they suffered traumatic brain injuries. She said just like that. I have no idea who she's talking about. Is she talking about Iran? Is she talking about Americans? Don't know. It was just that stupid of a statement. But yes, Pence beat Kamala Harris, but I didn't hear communism come out of his mouth once. I didn't hear him talk about or reference the fact that Americans are fearful of a civil war. I didn't hear him say that none of this is because of myself or the president. I didn't hear him say that. And I didn't hear him say or anything about the many dictators going around in this nation killing elderly by putting COVID patients in elderly clinics, and like Cuomo wielding his power like he is Stalin. I didn't hear him say anything about the churches being closed and how it's like dictators in these states. I didn't hear that. And yes, the power of the presidency and the vice presidency, the main power they have is their connection to the people and their ability to say, and this is what we have seen from no one, even President Trump. He's critical of the media. He does a great job of that. Because he's so bold, he has caused the left to come out and just freaking lose it. And I've said before, and I did a whole show on I think it's akin to demonic possession, what's happening with all these leftists. But why has no one laid out the reality of what's happening in the left, in the Democrat Party, and their ties to communism, the Black Lives Matter and their ties to Marxism? Where does the money from Black Lives Matter go? It goes to the Democrat Party. Where is the foundation in BLM? It's Marxism. It's communism. I mean, you can just assume by that and by the fact of what all the people have said in the Democrat Party that they are Marxists. They are communists. They believe in a fake utopia. Why is this not being pointed out? Are people afraid of that word? Communism? Are they afraid of saying people are Marxists? They say it themselves. This is what we need to see. This is what we need to hear. I keep saying this over and over again. These debates are worthless, okay? They're absolutely worthless. They're not going to convince anybody who supports Trump to vote for Biden, and anybody that just supports Biden wholeheartedly that's going to come over and vote for Trump. It's not going to happen. But what it can do is solidify the strength of those who stand behind Trump to stand up. That's the main thing. That is the one thing we could get out of these debates, is that we could unify the people that stand behind Trump. If they would talk to them, stop talking to the opponent. Forget about the left. Forget about Biden and Kamala. Start talking to the people. The people need to hear from you. The people need to be fired up. And just yelling and interrupting, and in the case of Mike Pence, talking for 15 minutes at a tone that would put a snail to sleep, is not going to focus the American people. Focus the patriots, focus the conservatives, focus the constitutionalists, and fire them up. But that's just not happening. That's not happening in these debates. And look, maybe you're wanting a more traditional type of analysis after these presidential and vice presidential debates. This is obviously not your podcast, because I will give you the analysis right now of all of these debates. You have leftist moderators. Most of them know nothing about anything. They're definitely skewing the questions in favor of the leftist candidate. And you have President Trump and Vice President Pence up there, and they're not talking to the American people. This is my criticism for them, and this is what I think that they should do. Forget about the left. Forget about the candidates. Forget about the moderators, and talk to the American people and fire them up. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and I'm out of here.